What is popping, guys? G, we're back in the building. We're back with another one, just like Biggie said. Hope you guys are obviously all well and good. Make sure you guys are obviously smashing that like button. Make sure you're sharing and make sure you are subscribing to the channel. Good football weekend. We've got quite a lot of football. Obviously, I know we've got the big game, Manchester City versus Spurs this weekend. Liverpool obviously playing against Fulham, and all the other boring fixtures, Newcastle, Manchester United, all that rubbish. But obviously today, of course, focusing on Liverpool and more importantly, focusing on Ryan Gravenberch. Now, a lot of us have spoken about Gravenberch. We've seen him come in, signing from Bayern Munich. He's been playing really, really well in the games that he has played for Liverpool this season, in some of the cameo appearances and things like that. And, really, it's just to ask the question, do we think it's enough time for Ryan Gravenberch to actually, start in these games, not just the Europa League? Obviously, we have got that midfield three of usually it will be McAllister in the six, and then Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai. Is it time now? Is it time that Ryan Gravenberch takes one of these spots? Now, which spot? I don't know. You guys will obviously let me know in the comment section. And I think we've all got a pretty good idea as to where we probably want to play him. But ultimately, that means one of these guys are going to have to drop out. And who is the guy that is going to drop out? But yes, going to be talking about that in today's video. Make sure you guys tune in. Make sure you smash a like. Let's get into it.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Tables turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Oh, please make sure, again, I know I keep saying it, but please just make sure you do smash, that like button. Let me get relaxed. Let me just chill. So, chilly Saturday morning. Wanted to do this quick conversation, obviously, as I said, and as I mentioned about Ryan Gravenberch. So, obviously, as I said, he's signed from Bayern Munich. Wears number 38 on his back. He's been pretty decent. He's been pretty decent. I've been very impressed with him. It's not because I didn't think he was a good player. Of course, the time at Bayern Munich, whatever went on over there at Bayern Munich, they had two managers and none of them fancied him. That signing from Ajax, I kind of thought that he would come in there. They would find a place for him in the squad. They didn't, and it just didn't really work out. And that's fine. It happens in football. Some players, you go to some clubs, they excel, they become brilliant players and all these kind of different things. But with him, it just didn't really pop off, if I'm being 100% honest. And of course, he'd be honest as well, just for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a tactical thing. I think it could have been mostly a tactical thing, but who knows, in training and stuff like that, was he showing enough? All of these things that we might not be privy to, as fans kind of looking in. Not say he had a bad attitude or anything like that. I don't want to, paint him as this type of guy or this type of person who, is a bad egg, so to speak. But that could have been one of the reasons as well. Maybe they looked at him in training and thought, you're not really doing too much, to be honest, to warrant even a place in the squad, let alone, trying to find and fit you in. And again, playing for Bayern Munich, they've got excellent players in most of the positions when you think about it that he probably would be playing in. Players have obviously been there for a very, very long time. I don't feel like they did give him enough chances, but at the same time, that it's not all on Bayern Munich. I know, again, Liverpool fans will look at it and think, of course, it's a steal, to be able to take him from Bayern Munich, and it probably is when you're looking at it now. But at the same time, when he was there, he's got to take some responsibility as well. I'm not gonna know. It's never. I'm not saying never, but more often than not, it's not just always it's very rare. It's just going to be one side of things. It's usually a two-way kind of thing. Obviously, there might be one side where it's 60-40, 70-30, but there's still some level of responsibility, upon yourself. Are you doing enough to even warrant a place? Are you demanding a place? And do your performances in training warrant you a place? In the little appearances that you are making, are you making enough of an impact? All of these kind of various different things I think come into play. And I think that's, for me anyway, in my opinion, I don't know, but I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why it just didn't really work out, because we're not talking about a player who was just a young player and they've just brought him up from the academy and it's just like, yeah, he's all right, but when he gets to the first team he's not really popping. This is a player who was popping at Ajax, one of their best players, when he was there at Ajax. He's captained them a few times and stuff like that, played in Champions League football, won leagues, and played for the Dutch national team. All these kind of things. We're not talking about a dibby dabby player, we're talking about a very, very good player, good youngster, when he signed for Bayern Munich. So there's got to be something there, but for whatever it is, I really, really don't know. And it doesn't really matter because now he's obviously at Liverpool and he's been doing pretty well. He's been doing pretty well. And I think obviously with what Klopp has kind of done with him, like he does with most players that he can do it with, he just obviously drips and drabs, try and feed him in. Again, this is a guy who barely played. If I take a look, if I show you guys his minutes last season, you guys can obviously see there, at the bottom of the screen, he played 33 times, got himself a goal and an assist in all competitions, but he only played 937 minutes. That was last season. Now look at this season. If I just take the banner off for you guys, then now you look at this season, he's played 700 minutes already, and that's just this season. He's only played 15. He's played basically half the amount of games. Got himself 2 goals, 2 assists. It's already looking a lot better, for Ryan Gravenberch, this season. And we've only really just started the season, and he's not really been playing full matches or anything like that. Again, totally understandable, because as you guys can obviously see there, with the amount of minutes and the game time that he was getting last season, it was almost like he was just chilling. There were so many times when, I'd watch Bayern games and think to myself, like, right, like, it's crazy that he's not playing. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy that he's coming on for like the last few minutes of a game. And again, like I said, I have no idea what the beef or anything that it possibly could have been, as to why he wasn't really there, or why he wasn't really starting games. But ultimately, like I said, 2 managers came in and they said, nah, you're not it, and we don't need you, at this current moment in time. And they were happy to let him go for 35 million. I think it was 35, yeah, 35 million. So again, it's just one of those things, but it can happen. It happens. Bayern's a massive club. Sometimes it just doesn't work out at these clubs. And I think coming into Liverpool, especially, in the summer, whether I don't feel like he was an original target. I think he was a target where it was like, it just made sense because of the timing of the signing, other players moving on. We couldn't really get other targets and stuff like that. And it just worked out that, oh, well, Gravenberch is, is available for this price, so let's get him in. Not to say we didn't ever want him. I feel like maybe Klopp wanted him, so to speak, but I don't think he was number 1 target, if that makes sense. I think he might have been a bit far down that list of players that if Klopp really was able to sign these kind of players, he would have gone for them, so to speak. But ultimately, we then, ended up getting him. And I think it's crazy because obviously being at Bayern Munich, especially like last season, obviously we know Bayern, obviously they ended up winning the league, last day, Dortmund obviously fluffing their lines and stuff like that. But when you're looking at Bayern Munich as a whole, they've got some excellent players, Jamal Musiala, Thomas Muller, Kimmich, Sané, Gnabry, Neuer, they've got some really, really good Goretzka, another good player. They've got some really, really good players in their team, and their team is quite efficient. It's been around, they've been together for ages, some of these players, playing together for such a long time that was probably always going to be quite difficult for him to kind of break in there. And then that's when you need to be showing something a little bit different. Was he doing that? I don't know. I probably say no, but then at the same time, he wasn't really getting enough chances to do so. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But excuse me. But yeah, I think when it comes to someone like Gravenberch, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you're coming into Liverpool, with how everything has been with Liverpool, obviously last season having, you know, the Jordan Hendersons, the Fabinhos, the James Milners, obviously all of those guys have, you know, have gone, and with them going, it's then allowed for, you know, this whole new midfield, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Endo, to all kind of come in, and everything's a bit new. It's a different environment. It's almost, I don't, like, I said it before on previous channels and stuff, and previous watchers, like, it's an unknown entity, which is why I would have, what I say, underestimated, but why I felt like Liverpool were gonna, whether they were gonna bounce back or not was another thing. Obviously, we never actually know, because anything can kind of happen, but you didn't really know how this midfield was realistically going to take. Individually, these guys are good. Szoboszlai, very good at RB Leipzig. Obviously, McAllister, very good at Brighton. Gravenberch, good at Ajax. Endo, I've not watched enough of him to really judge, but from what people tell me, he was, you know, good, you know, at Stuttgart. But as a collective, how is that going to work? And then coming into a Liverpool midfield, yo, this Liverpool midfield, like the way that Klopp likes the midfield to be, and how they are and how they have been over the last like few years, it's very taxing, you know, upon yourself. We've seen it with a lot of players, and we've seen how it's not a lasting thing in this midfield. You know, it can only last for a short amount of time, and then you kind of need to keep freshening it up. So coming into all of that, I felt like, was it going to be a good signing or not? He's a good player, so it's not like, oh, he's a shit player, why did we sign him, and then he's turned good or whatever. He was always a good player, but you just never really knew how it was going to pan out. And again, with not really playing too much football last season, it was always going to be one of those kind of things where you're like, ooh, how's it going to kind of go, you know, kind of thing. So I think like that's where the uncertainty, in my personal opinion, kind of came in. And, you know, again, it's like I said, it's not because I don't think he's a good player. It's just more, we just didn't really know, like, what Gravenberch are we going to get, you know, when he does come to Liverpool? Is this going to be a Gravenberch who's, you know, just going to basically go back to what he was good at? Was it just the environment? Was it just not being given shot? Like, there's so many questions. And like I said, you know, like I mentioned on the Jarell Kwanzaa video, if you guys haven't seen it, please make sure you check that out. Dropped it yesterday. Like I said about that in that video, Klopp was just rolling the dice here. Do you know what I mean? We can all sit, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but, you know, it's one thing, you know, rolling the dice, but then it could have just gone left for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, not so much, obviously, Szoboszlai and McAllister, more like the Gravenberches. Obviously, Endo, still the jury's obviously still, you know, kind of out for him, and obviously other players, you know, in the team. Like, if this had gone wrong and Liverpool had started all janky and all these kind of things, do you know what I mean? So he rolled the dice and obviously trusted himself. So big up Klopp for that. You know, he trusted himself and he trusted the team. You know what I mean? And you've got to then give massive credit to the team to be able to just kind of bounce back into this kind of momentum and things like that. I'm saying all this now and watch us go lose tomorrow against Fulham. But, you know, it's just it's that kind of thing. It's that kind of feeling, you know, and that's the kind of feeling I felt many had with Gravenberch. I don't think anyone thought he wasn't good. It was just, well, we don't know. You know what I mean? And with all the, you know, everyone wanted a DM, we wanted a 6. Of course, Liverpool haven't bought a 6. We know that Klopp wanted a 6 because tried to sign Caicedo, tried to sign Lavia. We didn't get those guys. We're now playing McAllister in the 6th position when we've even bought you know, a number 6 in Ouattara Endo. You know, signing Gravenberch was almost like that gap post sign, you know, from last season where, again, not to say you're not a good player, you are a good player, but do we need you right now? Like, are you the guy that we need to help our season? Probably not. But ultimately, you get these guys in, they bed in, and then hopefully, you know, they can show their stuff and, you know, things like that. But yeah, I think that's just a little bit there on Gravenberch. You know, 'cause I know everyone loves the point score. I think that's the world that we live in. But everyone's always like, oh, I told you so. I knew he was a good player. But everyone knew he was a good player. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anyone said he was a shit player. It's just, what we needed? Like, if we didn't have him and we signed the 6, would we be better off? Do you know what I mean? Would we have been better off? Like, when I say it's a better 6 than Endo, would we have been better off? Probably so. Probably so. You know what I mean? With how the season started, I think so anyway. But again, he's a very, very good player in his own right. And then that kind of brings me on to, you know, my next kind of talking point is, so where's he going to play? You know what I mean? Where's he going to play? Because he obviously mostly occupies that that sixth position, that left central midfield position. But then that's the same position that, Curtis Jones kind of occupies. And obviously I showed here. So obviously we know it's going to be a McAllister as a Szoboszlai. They're guaranteed to always start, not a problem. Well, McAllister in the six is a problem, but it is what it is, and that's what we're doing now. In terms of that left central midfield position, again, that was the position we thought that McAllister and Jones were going to occupy. And I think Klopp's kind of alluded to that, in terms of not being able to get that six. So then obviously having to play McAllister there, maybe that was then the reason of then getting Gravenberch, because Klopp didn't maybe like the other options at DM. Again, question marks could be asked about that and, all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, we didn't get that. So then when you get in someone like a Gravenberch who plays in that same position as a Curtis Jones, it's the same thing, and with Jones, the back end of last season, when Liverpool moved into that kind of box midfield and stuff like that, Jones is performing really, really well towards the back end of the season. And there's always going to be question marks over someone like Jones and like players like Jones and Elliott. I feel like there's always going to be question marks over them, because ultimately Liverpool are a massive club and we're trying to fight for honours. That's not to say that you can't play a part in that. That's not to say you can't be a squad player and, potentially work your way in. But if Liverpool are always constantly trying to improve, and then we're signing players who play in your position who are better, I don't know. It's like, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Like, you're going to have to be in crazy mad form, and the other guys just got to have to just been a bit dead, meaning you can't then, you're not, you're then going to play, kind of thing. And I think that's almost a situation with both Jones and an Elliott. When I look at them, it's like, well, Elliott plays right central midfield. Well, he's not taking Szoboszlai's position. Szoboszlai was signed to start in that position. That means we've signed a player who's better than Elliott because we don't trust that Elliott is the guy moving forward. Again, I've got no problem with that, of course, because Szoboszlai is obviously a lot better than an Elliott. But then what does that mean for players like the Elliott? And then the same thing with Curtis Jones. We signed two players, really, who play in that position, because what happens when which I don't know, I was going to say I don't think so, but I don't know if Liverpool will actually go out and sign a six. As fans, we keep saying, we need a six, we need a six. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Klopp works in mysterious ways. That brother and his staff, recruitment and that, them don't think the same way that we do. We're more likely to, and I remember I heard Jamie say this on his show last night. We're probably going to buy a forward. I can believe that. I can fully believe that we would go out and sign a forward as an example, and then that'll be it. And then you'll just be like, all right, so we still haven't signed the centre back that we probably need / left back or whatever. We still haven't signed the DM. What does that then mean moving forward? Then was going to be like, FSG this, and it's like, well, no, it's not going to be them. They don't necessarily pick the players. Yeah, I mean, Klopp and his recruitment staff, they'll pick the players. They'll pick the players that they feel that they want to get, kind of thing. The board will just say, all right, well, this is what we've got available to spend. What do you want to get? And he might be like, well, maybe I want to get a Gakpo now. Maybe I want to get Diaz now. Maybe I want to go and get, an Andre now, potentially. Or maybe I want to go sign a pre-contract for Sane, or whatever. I don't really know. But I can see something like that actually happening in January. And with the way that Liverpool used the number 6 position, I don't even think that they even want the 6 that we all keep talking about. Do you know what I mean? We all want Andre and, the Palhinhas, and I don't even know if he even wants these kind of guys. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he wants more of a multifunctional kind of midfielder, and Andre and Palhinha, they're not multifunctional. They're not players who are known to play in the 8th position. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that they could never do it, but they're not players that I would say, yeah, put him in the 8. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Andre a bit more so, but I'm not signing. I don't understand the signing of Andre if you're going to just play him in the 8. What was the point of that if you're then going to just keep a McAllister there? So many questions. But when we're looking towards like Gravenberch, again, same thing I'm saying about Elliott, same thing I'm saying about Curtis Jones. You sign Gravenberch, you sign McAllister. In an ideal world, if you're signing those 2 players, it's to play in those positions. Maybe McAllister could potentially play on the right-hand side, maybe, but then you're switching Szoboszlai over to the left-hand side, kind of thing. You're signing these players because you feel that the player that you do have there, obviously, 1, for depth, totally understandable, but 2, because you don't really believe that this guy, and the way that Klopp kind of works is he ain't going to always go out there like, Klopp ain't signed the right winger. In all this time, why hasn't he signed a right winger? Because he's got Mo Salah there. Why hasn't he signed the left-sided centre-back? Because he's got Virgil van Dijk there. Why hasn't he signed the new goalkeeper? Because he's got Alisson there. Obviously got Kelleher there, but there's probably better other goalkeepers that we possibly could have signed to challenge Alisson. But why would you do that? Because you got Alisson. He's the best in the business, kind of thing. A left back. He made sure, in my opinion, that he signed the left back who was never really going to challenge Robertson like that. And it was literally only for these type of moments. Robertson gets injured, I will play him kind of thing. But when Robertson comes back, yeah, you're coming out straight away. Same thing with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Where he's lucky in that regards is that he's been able to have someone like a Gomez who can play in those positions. And maybe because he's got Gomez, that's why he might have not signed another left back. There's so many different kind of caveats, I feel, anyway, to why he's not doing certain things. But then he will sign players in other positions where he feels like, if I haven't got the whoever's in the team now, if I don't feel like that's a strong option, I will try and improve, upon that. And in midfield, obviously, of course, with everyone leaving, he had to anyway. But also then bringing in, more players into those kind of positions in that left centre mid, right centre mid. And with Jones, yeah, it's getting kind of spooky because, again, Jones a bit like Szoboszlai in the last month. To be honest, the whole midfield really in the last month and a bit have been kind of dead. Do you know what I mean? But Jones and Szoboszlai have really shone up because they were two players who were like, okay, cool. Szoboszlai more so because you're like, right, you start off like a house on fire. Of course, it's not supposed to last anyway. I say that for like the elite top players, like the Bellinghams of this kind of world, the Mbappes or something like that. But where you've got players like the Szoboszlais and the Curtis Jones, when you're looking at those two, they've not really been performing well in recent weeks. So then that then begs the question, is it now time for someone like Gravenberch, who has performed in the little cameos? I know he has obviously played in a few Prem games, come off the bench against Manchester City, played against Brighton, should have scored against Brighton, would have won us the game, I think. I can't remember what the score was at that time, but I think we would have went on to win that game if he had scored that goal. Obviously fluffed his lines there. Coming against Manchester City, he was really good, helped us to get the goal against Manchester City to get that draw. And I think the way that he plays, being able to progress the ball really, really well. He's a strong runner. I've said it 100 times. He's exactly not exactly, because I think Paul Pogba was better, but he reminds me of Paul Pogba when he was at Juventus. Again, like I said, Pogba was better than Gravenberch at Juventus when he was at Juventus anyway. But if they're so similar, strong runners, because they're quite tall as well, but they're so good at dribbling technique wise, can play really, really good passes. They always seem to find space. They always seem to glide, when they're on the pitch. And as I mentioned, it's difficult to get the ball, off of these kind of guys because of the way that they dribble and stuff like that. It's difficult, maybe because of the height thing, whatever. They got a bit of pace, long legs and all these kind of things. But the way that they glide on the pitch, it's tricky. It's tricky. He just needs to maybe just add goals to his game. I think he'll be as good as what Pogba was, at Juventus. But that's a whole different kind of conversation. But when I'm looking at him, that's exactly what he reminds me of. And then I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, is that maybe what we need, maybe in that midfield? Because I don't really feel that I know Szoboszlai does it at times and he can do it. That's the maddest thing. He can do it. But I almost feel like that right central midfield position, you've got too much defensive work to do because you've got two kind of lazy ass players on that side in Trent and Salah. Well, you definitely got at least one. And then Trent at times is on planet Mars, in other situations. So you might be doing quite more defending and running around than you would be doing of bringing the ball forward, which is fine, I guess, if that's how, Klopp wants to play it. But then on that left central midfield side, then you've almost got a player. It's almost like I feel like they should switch sides at times, because I'm like, I'd rather Szoboszlai be the one running with the ball and stuff like that. And then Jones, who likes to retain possession, is pretty decent defensively, get him on that right-hand side. But I just don't think it would potentially work. Maybe it just works this way, but we've not seen it. So, it's one of those things. But if you're going to have it in the way that it is right now, then I'm like, why don't we, get, someone like Gravenberch who can progress play, can find a pass, into the forwards. He can get himself. He's always making those late runs into the box. He always seems to be in and around the goalkeeper when like someone's taking a shot, whether it be a midfielder or a striker. He always seems to be one of the ones who are relatively close, to getting a goal. We saw with the Nunes against, I think it was Toulouse in that Europa League, where Nunes went round the keeper, missed an open goal as per, and then Gravenberch was the one that was closest there. No other forward was none of the other forwards were as close as Gravenberch. That's because Gravenberch makes these late runs. He's a smart footballer. So That's why I'm like, is it about time that we maybe potentially started Gravenberch? We've got a really, really busy period. Was it 9 games and 27 days or something like that? So it's like a game every 3 days. So if that's the case, we've got a game this on Sunday against Fulham. Then I think we've got next game against Sheffield United on the Wednesday. Then on the Saturday, we've got Crystal Palace. Games are coming thick and fast during this period. So he's going to have to rotate anyway, because players are going to start picking up injuries and stuff like that during this period. But I think it might be time. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Now, I wanted to take a quick look at this. So I'll just quickly show you guys here. Gravenberch is obviously the highest rated player in the UEFA Europa League this season with 7.88. As I mentioned before, he has been really, really good in the Europa League. That's obviously mostly where he's played. He's got himself 2 goals and an assist. 3 goals and assists in 4 games. Really, really good record. Now let's take a look at him versus Curtis Jones. I'll put this up. Boom. So obviously you guys can see that there. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. You can check it out for yourself. Now this is just this season in the Premier League for both of these players. So we're taking a look here. Ball recoveries. Ryan Gravenberch is better at that than Jones. Obviously I know Jones has been suspended as well. Yeah. These are just the games that obviously they played. Possession lost. Curtis is better. If we go down to chances created, in the Premier League, Jones hasn't created 1 chance in the Premier League. That's a bit alarming. I know there's the Curtis Jones fans out there. I know you guys, you rock with him. Fair enough, but I don't like that. Do you know what I mean? This is per 90, by the way. I don't really like that. You've not created 1 chance in the whole time you've been playing. I understand your role. I do understand your role. But at the same time, I don't know, man, because then when you've got a different type of player in Ryan Gravenberch, 1.2, I don't know, man. Questions to be asked. Anyways, passes attempted, 56 for Curtis Jones. So again, he's attempting more passes. Again, down to the role of the 2 players. Passing accuracy, 87 for Gravenberch. Again, Curtis Jones really, really accurate. And again, because he's retaining possession and that's slowing down play a little bit, I kind of expect that. But it's really good that his is at 93%. If we move on, long pass accuracy, I think obviously Jones has made more passes anyway, so it kind of balances itself out. Through balls attempted, again, Jones, none, but Gravenberch is 0.3 per 90. Passes in opponent's half, 32. Is that? Yeah, 32 for Curtis Jones, 21.6. Again, it goes down to the role of the 2 players. I feel like Gravenberch is going to be doing more driving with the ball as opposed to Curtis Jones isn't going to necessarily be doing much of that. But again, still, Curtis Jones is better at that. Passes in own half, 21 to 11, makes sense. Forward passes, again, 11.6 for Curtis Jones, 12 for Ryan Gravenberch, relatively close, but again, he's coming out on top. And then backwards passes, again, the stats, I didn't even need to put this up. You guys already watched the games. These stats, these more just solidify things that we already kind of see. Aerial duels, I kind of expect that Gravenberch would contest more and have a better success rate. He's I'm gonna say taller, unless someone's gonna tell me he isn't, but yeah, makes sense. Ground duels contested. I'm kind of surprised by that. I am. I thought Jones would, when I did this and when I was looking up the stats, I thought Jones would actually come out on top in these areas, but Gravenberch is coming out on top in both ground duels, interceptions, and blocks. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Short passes completed. Jones really, really good at that, 52. Duels contested. Again, we're seeing Gravenberch contesting more duels. Tackles, Jones is making more, but I'd say Jones is winning in that regards, especially when I look at it. They're relatively close in duels contested, but he's making more tackles in games. Is that again the role? Take-ons is pretty interesting. I actually thought that Gravenberch would be way higher than that, than Curtis Jones, but they're relatively close. So I would say relatively even in that regards. And you can see there anyway, their take-on success is both exactly the same. So you're looking at that, and you can see from the stats alone, you can see that they're doing 2 different roles on the same side of the pitch. So really, it is just about what's going to be effective for Liverpool moving forward. I think in some games, Curtis, hence the reason why I understood why he played Curtis Jones in the game against Manchester City, because maybe that's just what we needed, and maybe the game plan was, listen, let's try and keep it tight. Let's just try and, not go too gung-ho and stuff like that. And maybe a Gravenberch might potentially lose a ball here, and City are too dangerous. They're too dangerous. And obviously Jones knows more of what Klopp wants than a Gravenberch, because obviously Jones has been here since he was a kid, so been here longer than Jurgen Klopp, so he's going to know exactly what Liverpool need, in these kind of games. But then when we saw how the game was kind of panning out, I felt like when just before we scored, before Trent actually scored, you could see that City will grow, like they were super dominant in that kind of period, like the 5-10 minutes before we actually scored. And I remember saying, boy, if City score, game's done. We're definitely not drawing or winning. Whether we scored is another thing, but we're not winning this game, or we're not even getting a point, because they were so dominant in that period. Then obviously Klopp's brought him on, and then obviously the game's just starting to change a little bit. It's almost like we're getting a little bit more. Obviously City is still going to be City, so you can't stop them, but we were getting a little bit more freedom, a bit more space. We saw what Gravenberch obviously done with against Rodri, just gliding past him like he wasn't even there. And we're talking about the best defensive midfielder, in the world, and he just made him look like he was just running in quicksand, which was funny. But again, these are the kind of things that in certain games I can understand why you play Jones, because that's the kind of game that you maybe want to play. But then in other games, I feel, again, against Fulham, for example, at home, that's where I'll be playing Gravenberch, so. But Clay, listen, look, Klopp's the manager, man. We'll see, kind of what he thinks and how he kind of sees it. Now, this is obviously from Gravenberch last season for Bayern Munich and this season. So obviously you can see their games played 24 games in the league last season. He's only played 8 this season. So of course, most, if not all of these stats are going to be in favor of last season, because just by sheer amount of minutes and things like that. But they're not as far when you look at it in retrospect, if I'm being, totally honest, and I'm looking here, touches per game, obviously 82 per 90, 58 so far. And again, he's making sub appearances in the Premier League. Ball recovery, 6.7 to 9.2. It's not that far off. Possession lost, again, not that far off. Chances created, last season is 1.3 per 90, but this season is 1.2. Passes attempted, 37.9, obviously, to the 58. Passes completed, of course. If we move on, long pass accuracy was obviously better this season, but I think that's just by sheer amount that he's making. But again, last season, no through balls attempted. This season, 0.3. Do you know what I mean? So again, getting a little bit better, and again, sheer amount of minutes, game time, maybe the type of role that he's obviously getting over there. Passes in own half, forward pass, even forward passes. He's making 15.7. Last season. This season making 12. Backward passes 6. Last season making 11.2. Again, sheer amount of minutes. But you look at some of these and you just think like, ooh, okay, cool. Aerial duels contested. Take-ons 1.5 made. Tackles. 1.5. Last season was 2.8. Duels contested. They're relatively the same. It was just a 0.2 more last season. Short passes completed last season was 50.6 per 90 that he was playing. This season is 33. I think that will start to increase once he starts starting games and finishing off games. Once the season I think we'll start to see, I think anyway, a better version of him come the second half of this season. Interceptions, he's making more blocks. Ground duels, again, he was contesting 11.2 last season. This season, doing 10.5. The success rate, not too far off. So we're seeing a different kind of player than we were seeing last season. We're seeing almost obviously last season, he obviously stalled because he wasn't playing that many games. But then now we're almost seeing what should have been last season. We're seeing that now from Ryan Gravenberch. And then slowly we should start seeing, the development from someone like him. And again, like I said, it does beg the question, do we think it is time for Ryan Gravenberch to start? Would you guys like him to start? Do you think he should be starting? Obviously, let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm going to wrap it up there for you guys. Thank you for everyone who has tuned into the video. Make sure you're smashing that like button. Make sure you're sharing. Make sure you do subscribe to the damn channel. Let me know. Leave comments. I will reply to all the comments. So make sure you're obviously leaving those. Just let me know, man. Do we think it's time Or do we think, no, give Jones a few more chances and then obviously let him start games slowly but surely? We'll have to obviously wait and see what Klopp wants to do. Got a busy period coming up, so let's wait and see. I'm G, video done and dusted, and we are outie.